Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in to Relevant Jukebox, and today we're going to talk about the sort of new album from AceMo, Mind Jungle. So this is a new album from the New York producer AceMo, but it was dropped way earlier in the year, back in March, and he's had quite the busy 2020 so far, releasing a couple EPs and another full-length that preceded this one, but also collaborating with fellow New York producer Moma Reddy under the AceMo name for a couple other EPs and full-length as well. AceMo does share a lot of similar qualities with Moma as a producer overall, mainly in their fast tempos and just overall ferocity and sensory overload, but he also finds ways to carve out his own path. The tracks on this album, for example, are extremely dense and packed with melodies that are intertwined around each other and the beats. They're constantly like ascending and descending and changing and morphing, and even though the pacing is fast and the drum patterns can change at any time, they're not really heavy or overbearing like what would show up on a Moma project. And I actually think that works in AceMo's favor overall because it does put more emphasis on the melodies. Like on the second track, Mind Cave, I think that's a really good example. And another quality of this album that I just ended up really enjoying and stuck out to me overall was like the sound palettes and the tones that he uses. They're all very retro futuristic, kind of like what you'd find on a synthwave project, but they're presented in this like IDM flavored way. I could see fans of like Square Pusher or even like Hyperdub's back catalog getting into this record, and I wanted to point out the track Mind Element specifically as it's one of my favorite cuts on the record, but I also think it's a pretty good starting point. There's this really great sort of like abstract melody that's in this track that sounds like it's chopped up from like, you know, a sample of a Skype call or something, but I'm really like not sure what it is. But listening to this track, I just feel like I'm like flying through the internet on speed or something. And I guess the only track on here that just sort of paled in comparison to others, in my opinion, was right in the middle with Jazz Junglist. It has sort of a slower pacing than all the other cuts on the record, which is fine, honestly, but it just feels very disjointed when it progresses until it picks up a little bit towards the end. And the closing track, Mind Temple, is a bit more of a cool down spot for the record to close it out, but again, it just doesn't feel as seamless as it progresses from the beginning to the end, and then it sort of just ends abruptly. But I mean, overall, I just really enjoyed this album. There's a theme that shows up in the track listing centered around the mind, and you know, if this album catches your ear, I'm sure it's going to be rattling around in your head, sort of like that scene in Men in Black when like Will Smith touches that weird little ball thing and then it just jumps around the whole office. And I'm just loving the like retro futuristic vibes that radiate off this album with that IDM framework. And with that being said, I'm feeling an 8 over here on Mind Jungle. So I did head over to AceMo's Bandcamp. There are no physicals of this release just yet, but I do have a link down below if you guys want to listen to this album. And if you have checked out Mind Jungle already, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and share, and if you want more content from me, hit that subscribe button. Peace.